Hello, all, and welcome to Resilient Business. This is the show where you get real talk from small business owners as they navigate changing times. If you like what you hear on this show, please like, comment, and subscribe. And also check out our affiliates at the bottom of the page for some great discounts and some great products. Okay, today I am thrilled to have with me Michele Spencer from the Kansas City area from Mpact Physical Therapy. Michele and I have known each other now for, I think, about 2.5 years. And I just wanted to bring Michele on because she has a great story about running her practice. Her practice is a little bit unique in physical therapy, as that they offer a variety of other different types of therapies and modalities and technologies, but I will let her talk to those. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Michele on with me. And so, Michele, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Joe. We just got back from about a week off from kind of spending some time with my parents, which was great and a little refreshing, and spent some time in the hill country of Texas where the bluebonnets are blooming, and there's a ton of sunshine, which was awesome to be outdoors. So
Awesome. That sounds like a good time out with family.
yeah,
You need that. You need that, especially these days, right?
yes, it was so reviving and refreshing for sure.
Yeah. So I think where we could start is just, give a little background on um, how you really ended up in the type of practice you're in, maybe what led up to that, and sort of what's keeping you there. So how did you get there, and what do you love about it? What's keeping you there these days?
Sure. Well, we started about 5 years ago. I've been a outpatient orthopedic practice for about 35 years, a long time. And about that point, I was just seeing just a need for a change in what direction I was going with, what I felt like what was lacking in the industry, with ways that we could better help patients and support them with their overall goals for wellness. And I just never had taken initiative to think about, could I do that on a private practice, kind of a self-employed realm. But my husband encouraged me to do that, and so we started exploring that, and that's kind of the initial evolution of Mpact. And then I just basically sat down and wrote all the things I loved about physical therapy through the years, all the things I felt like I didn't like in the direction it was going, and what I felt like could add to it. And so we started developing kind of a theme and a direction for what Mpact became. So
Sure. And so you started to think about other things you could be doing besides the traditional sort of cookie cutter PT type practice. So maybe talk
yes.
about how you were able to sort of think about expanding that out and how it's sort of
Sure.
evolved.
Well, for me, I loved private practice. I loved the autonomy of that. We've seen in healthcare a gradual shift towards corporate practices. And I felt like I really wanted to emphasize more of a wellness component. And in traditional therapy, we would see patients come in and you're doing traditional therapy modalities, which are still needed, and manual care still needed. But there was a plethora of other stuff that wasn't being addressed that I felt like could help support their healing pathways, which could be, everything from nutrition to trying to see if they could change some of their components of health to help lower their need for medication, lower their need for a medical care, versus focusing more on their wellness and what that meant. So, it just became almost like it was like I had to make a change, because I just felt like I was on just a spinning wheel of just repetition. And I've been in practice for long enough to think, what, there's got to be more out there. We've got to be able to address some of these things. And I myself, as I had started to age, realized how important it was, the responsibility I had in taking care of my health and what I wanted my next, 30, 40 years to look like, and what I was doing. And then I started really researching and spending time just asking some questions about that. And then I thought, the things that I'm doing myself, I need to be able to spend time with patients in the practice talking about. And there's little time for that in a corporate environment. Most of the time there's a pressure to kind of stay within a model, and I wanted to stretch outside of that. model, I guess.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like what you're doing is really taking a model that's always been largely rehab focused, physical rehab, physical
Hmm.
therapy, right?
Yes,
And adding to it supportive and enhancing therapies, modalities, approaches such as nutrition, such as things you're doing for energy, and just creating an environment in each patient of, I guess, that would promote better rehab, better physical therapy. And so maybe
correct.
even reducing some of the heavy lifting that you might be doing on maybe a less healthy patient if you were to be working on them, so to speak. But it sounds
Right.
like you're doing a lot more holistic of an approach to people, which you just don't find every day in PT.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing, I mean, and therapists will say this, the most important part a lot of times is that listening component, because we spend time with patients, multiple visits, and you're listening to what they're dealing with, what kind of stresses they're dealing with, what kind of emotional issues, what they're struggling with other health components, and those directly affect how effective they're going to be following through with any exercises or any of the advice you give them from an orthopedic standpoint. And if I've got the capacity to give them resources to help address those things, or they're a part of their care there, then I feel like we're going to achieve goals that give them longevity and improvement overall versus just, okay, I'm going to gain the range of motion and the strength of this knee, and their gait pattern is going to be better, and they're out the door and they're good. But a lot of times, all those other components, we've been doing a lot of it for years. We're just not defining it. And as you know, medical care became more compressed, I felt like therapists are like, you know what, I don't have time to address this anymore. And so what Molly and I decided we wanted to do was, you know what, we know those are important. And I feel like when we created a practice where they are listened to, they're heard. We are not just, okay, write it down and we're off to the next thing, but we're addressing those things. We're giving them direction. They sense that we care about them and that their care is something that's unique and above what normally is there. And yeah, and there's so much out there, just like Pulse and other things to help support their healing pathways and their healing systems that people have never heard of, that and they're so effective, and they're so effective for multiple different systems. It's been exciting to feel like we are offering something unique and powerful to change their life. So
Yeah, I mean, it's really a milieu or a potpourri of different things. And somebody I was talking with last week, said it really, really good, is that you end up spending the best approach is to spend more time. And you said it earlier,
mhm,
listening to the patient, because really what you end up dealing with in most cases is a really personalized set of circumstances, the person's
exactly.
background, the person's nutrition, the person's current health, different things that they might be on now, from medications to other, things they might be doing, and environmental and all of that. And how do you
Mhm.
address all of that in a holistic way? It's just not something that traditional healthcare or maybe the more allopathic, if you want to call it, route of medicine and treatment really has time or the inclination, I guess, to address these days.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of leads me into my next question: is people define healthcare and wellness a little bit differently these days, and it almost seems
Yes.
like the two are sort of diverging in some ways
Mhm.
these days, in just the way they're practiced and in the way the interaction with the patient goes, and even results in a lot of cases. So
Right.
it sounds like you've really you're really falling down that, or going down that path of wanting to provide overall wellness versus the traditional healthcare route, which is evident in everything you've been saying so far.
Right. Yes. I mean, when we think about wellness versus medical care, I think of wellness as well health. You know, people come in and their main goals are they want to live a fuller life. They want to be able to do things that create, like I said, time and energy and enthusiasm to do to do life in a better way. And people are more receptive and they're learning more about that. Like they're learning more about, I mean, years ago, if you sat down and talked to them about nutrition or an anti-inflammatory diet, when we've got a lot of inflammation in our whole body, or they're very aware of the need not to take a lot of pain medications because of the opioid epidemic and all the things, they talk a lot about that now. So they're more aware that there is a responsibility on themselves to start thinking about their health in a more global sense. And sometimes they just need a little bit of a connection with somebody else that can kind of say, okay, yeah, let's go on that path together. And, when they're in rehab and they're in exercise and you have all this time to communicate with them, just on these different things, and the questions come up and you may pick up things that you wouldn't otherwise picked up. But definitely I have seen so much change in people's physical capacities by addressing these other things. And they'll always say, nobody's ever asked me these questions. Nobody's ever cared to listen. And they are so compassionate. And the other thing, just on a quantitative thing for me, when we look at all of our numbers, like, when we were in corporate PT care, you get your printout, how many units, how many visits, how many no-shows, how many cancellations, you're graded, and I hated that, because I felt like, what, my grade should be when these people come back and how they feel and how to embrace. But if I looked at my objective numbers on our EMR system, our cancellation rate is less than 1%, and it's been less than 1% over a 4-year time. And I mean, traditionally, when we have people come in, their last appointment, they're like, I hate that this is my last appointment. I love being here. I want to be here because of the community, the people, the way that it's made them feel. And I think there is such a message in that. It's just amazingly, it's just a reward beyond measure. So.
Sure. That's really interesting that people get to the end of their sort of treatment course,
Yeah.
if you will, and they don't want to leave. Are there things that can keep them there? Are there
Yeah.
are there things that you offer that you don't really have to leave, Mrs. Jones, or whoever,
Right.
because we offer these other things. Don't forget we have this or that. Are there things that fall into that category, perhaps?
Yes. So our kind of our focus is to be a wellness partner for life for them. And so, when they come in for therapy and they finish their therapy sessions, there are things that we've been doing during those therapy sessions. One of those would be pulse. Like the majority of our patients, if they're a candidate, would be going through PEMF sessions. And we set up things at the end of their care. Like we have a balance class for some of our older clients that's set up once a week that they can come in and do a balance class. We have yoga classes that are therapeutic, restorative type yoga classes that are given in the evenings. And then we have Pulse program where we have memberships that they can continue to pulse, on a just monthly, if they set up so many sessions a month, and they continue that as part of their just wellness plan. And then every year they have an option to come in and do like a complimentary, just a recheck with us on how they're doing. It's a 15-minute screen on, just mobility and strength and discussion on some of the things maybe they were concerned about. Maybe they've got something that, they're needing to have rechecked. So I feel like being a primary caregiver for them as part of one of them, or one of their many ones that they might have, so that they have repeat connection with us, so that you're not always driving. We do have new patients all the time, but we also stay connected with all those people and their families that we have had in the past. So I think that's grown our practice in a real rich way, but it's also so emotionally rewarding because we feel like we're a little Mayberry sometimes. We have that community feel, and my staff in there, I love that. Our main theme we've always said is family first, no matter what. That is the most biggest priority. Is we want you to, if you've got emergencies or you've got stuff, we want you to prioritize your family first, and then our staff prioritizing each other second, and then our patients. And our patients feel that because they know how much everybody in there loves one another and loves the community. So
Yeah. Well, excellent, excellent. Now you mentioned something within that concerning pulse PEMF, and that's how you and I know each other for the last couple of
Yes.
years. You're one of my really good pulse clients using PEMF in at Mpact, which is great, and we appreciate that. Maybe for people who've never heard of pulse or heard of PEMF, if you could let us know how you use that in the practice, how it sort of integrates into your workflow and into your care for your
Yes.
patients, if you would.
Sure. So, my original connect with Pulse was that I'm very interested and have a passion for regenerative medicine. I work with local physicians that are involved in that, and I go to the national conference for the Toby Institute offers once a year, and that allows me to kind of see what's new out there, what the research is saying, and just make great connections. And Joe was one of those. One of my friends who's a functional medicine integrative health nurse had been talking with me about PMF, and when I happened on to see Joe, we kind of started talking, and I got to experience it out at the conference. I was amazed at just the potential for the therapeutic benefit, and also had not really thought about bringing it in the clinic. But then at the course, we were talking about cellular stem cell health, and increased vascularity and blood supply and inflammation. And so I started realizing, oh my gosh, for what I do with our regenerative medicine clients, this would be a great adjunct. This is going to help with those healing pathways, to help support those in a really great way. So we brought Pulse in, and then we brought one unit in, and we realized how much overflow into all of our patients it began to filter into. And that has been, I mean, I feel like we've tapped into a fraction of what we can do long term with it. Fatigue, malaise from other medical conditions that they just don't have a lot of energy and support to do what they need to do in therapy. And then, some people will just have override of, hey, I'm sleeping better. We've used it with anxiety patients when they have a lot of neck and TMJ and stress. So we're just, amazed at, okay, we are only using it this much. And as it grows and as it builds and as people begin to understand the science and the modality behind it, I just think it's such an exciting field of, a modality help in the therapy world. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the amazing things about Pulse is that it doesn't really treat, cure, or prevent anything. These machines, and I have them behind me here too, just to sort of show people if they're not
uh-huh.
familiar, but they don't prevent, treat, cure any medical condition, but yet they energize the body enough for the body to be able to do its own thing, basically. And the way the body was designed is to be able to heal itself. And, everybody knows the old, the example of when you cut yourself, yes, it hurts and you can see it right now, but 10 days later, you wonder where it was, type thing. And,
Uh-huh.
it's just a matter of the body being able to heal itself. And the reason why it doesn't always heal itself as quickly or as thoroughly, I guess, in some cases, as we would hope, is usually due to a lack of energy in the body. And all PEMF does is push energy into the body and let the body, kind of play the starring role. So I'm glad you
Mm-hmm.
found so many uses for it. And I'm glad you're using it broadly, because I talk to people, all the time about thinking of it as more of a vitamin rather than as an
Yes.
aspirin.
Yes.
And sort of
Uh-huh.
it's a longer term holistic part of a long-term wellness strategy, and not just kind of a magic bullet here and there. So I think you guys are using it
Yeah.
great and having good success with it. So thank you.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What else maybe that's new that you've maybe recently added that you might want to chat about into the practice?
Sure. Well, in the middle of COVID, trying to reestablish programs that we had already, had rolling, because we had been open 3 years and growing in a very strong way. And then we had COVID. So that kind of set us back a little bit just from a standpoint of some of our group programs. So we reestablished those. And then one of the other things that we wanted to do was start a pelvic floor program. We had a physician that loved this one gal and said, hey, you've got to bring her over. We're like, we haven't thought about that. We started researching it. We're like, you know what? it looks like it would be a great fit. So we brought her in, and that was in October. That program is growing great. She's pelvic health and women's health, and we began to learn a lot about the adjunct of using PEMF with those patients to increase, just support and oxygenation of those tissues. As she's starting to work with them, we've been so amazed at some of the fun new ways. We've kind of thought, okay, let's try it this way. Let's try, it's been a really great support in that way. So, and then, this year, just, as, our state starts to open up, we've been able to start reestablishing our, our group classes, like our yoga classes and our balance classes and stuff. And so, next year is, we're just starting to, okay, through the summer, where are we going now? Just starting to look at the growth of our clinic, and, just what other, things that now that we feel like we can kind of start reaching out a little bit more face to face. So anyways, but it's been like I was telling, we were talking earlier about, I was worried about our practice, but I feel like, it has just been such a blessing that, like our last month was the busiest we've ever been. And, I mean, we really have not been out there doing a lot of marketing, a lot of social media, because we have been so focused on just trying to manage what's been going on and trying to think, okay, let's see how this month goes. And then we'll just like, oh my gosh, it really is doing well. And it's been encouraging. So.
That's excellent. I'm glad, because I do talk to a lot of people out there, and 2020 really ran a spectrum for people. Some were really impacted negatively, and they don't really know even what to do at this point, at this stage, in certain places. And others have just made it through great, have had historical months, or even last year for some that I've spoken with. And I just think it's really valuable for folks like you to be sharing different ways of differentiation and things that you really think are working, and that were really the reason why now that you've rebounded. And thankfully,
Yeah.
we can all share our experiences that way in this forum. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, when you think about the direction, like you were talking about, which direction you're going, are you going more in a wellness direction? Are you going more on a medical, are you staying in this medical paradigm? And, for us, I think that, when you go through something like COVID and you realize, people will ask themselves, what are the best ways that I can maintain or improve my health, improve my immune system, be ready for something that I'm not knowing that's coming, and how they got blindsided by that. And, to be a part of that community and that conversation is so enriching. And I feel like, we've got a gift to give to others, and then people are very receptive to that, because they understand, just even talking from a supplement, I mean, people would have never been talking to me about, what all would be important for my immune system, and connecting with some of these functional medicine people that, nurses or practitioners that help to evaluate them and look at what their immune system looks like, and what they're taking, what they're not taking, and all of those different components, and understanding that your health is more than just what you're ingesting, like it's, just like you talked about, like PMF, it's, it may be, providing additional energy support when we've been, inside and isolated and lack of vitamin D outside, or, just the component of, okay, I need a healthy emotion, like I need connection, and what that lack of connection has done for so many people's emotional health. So.
Yep, absolutely. So as we wrap up here, then, Michele, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience, or let the audience know how they can get a hold of you if anybody has any questions about Mpact?
Oh, sure. Well, they're welcome to get a hold of me. It's Mpact Physical Therapy with no I, so it's Mpact Physical Therapy. My email is michele@impactpt.com. And then you're welcome to send me an email, and I'll reach out, or we can talk on the phone. I think I guess because I've been in practice a long time, I think it's a long time. I'm like, whoa. I'm sure people that have been in practice for a while feel like this. When you go back and you look over your career and your practice and you think, and especially when we're bringing these young students in that, their whole PT, student training has been in this new COVID environment. And you're just thinking, I want to leave my profession in a better place, enrich its capacity to reach others in a new way, fresh, and where people feel like, I've been in practice for 4 or 5 years and I'm loving it and I want to keep going and I want to have control over what I do with my practice. That it's not just I'm dependent on referral base, or I'm dependent on what I'm allowed to do. I want to think creatively and, okay, how can I reach people? Is there a way for us to do that? And my success, or our success, both monetary and emotionally, is based on what we put into it and what we create, what Molly and I create. And I would encourage you to partner up with somebody. I definitely think that doing it with someone has been so enriching. Molly has been, equally as her connection and all the things that she's contributed has been, it's made Mpact what it is. So, anyways,
Fantastic. Yeah,
that's it.
really appreciate having you on today, Michele. Thank you. And folks, if you want to have more information about resilient business, you can follow me on Instagram at Lahote Joe. Also, check out the affiliate links below for some great products and great discounts. And if anyone's interested in a passive technology to add to their practice or even use at home that can energize the body and really create great cellular wellness, and you've never heard of PEMF before, give me a call and we could chat about it and answer all your questions. But Michele, I wanted to thank you again for being on Resilient Business, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Joe. You too. Thank you for all you do. You're
Thank
awesome.
you.